And so Vidutas here, they are also lamenting that in this assembly of Yamaraj, what's happening? Adharma is being introduced. Person who is not supposed to be punished, who is sinless, is being punished. So, yesterday when I was hearing this lecture, he quotes one Hindi saying. I can't remember it completely, maybe somebody knows it. सच बोले तो there is one saying, na? Sach bole to. Anybody knows the full thing? No, there are two parts to it. First is Sach bole to, and there's another part to it. Anyway, you can check in Prabhupada's lectures. So that's Kali Yuga situation. So if one tells the truth, one is beaten up, and if one tells lies, then one is, huh? No. No. क्या? From where you are reading? You search in Prabhupada's lectures. Our authority is Prabhupada's lectures, not Google. So you can see it in lectures on the Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter, if you want to search. पूरा क्या है? पहला पार्ट क्या? सच बोले तो मारे लाठा, लाठी। सच बोले तो मारे लाठा, और आगे क्या? जगत हराए धन कलियुग दुख लागे हंसपाए। ये कहाँ से है आपका? 6th chapter. ऐसे कुछ तो है ना, वैसे ओके. That's okay. So anyway, so that's Kali Yuga situation. That if one tells the truth, one gets a beating. If one tells lies, one escapes. I think so. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur also told one similar story. Okay, so now the Vishnudutas are lamenting that there is no justice even in the court of Yamaraj. 3rd verse. Prajanam pitaro yecha shastra sadhava samaha yadi syateshu vaishamyam kam yanti sharanam praja. Read.
The Yamaduta said.
3rd verse.
Sri Sukadeva Goswami replied.
3rd verse.
A king or governmental official should be so well qualified that he acts as a father, maintainer and protector of the citizens because of affection and love. He should give the citizens good advice and instructions according to the standard scriptures and should be equal to everyone. Yamaraja does this, for he is supreme master of justice, and so do those who follow in his footsteps. However, if such persons becomes polluted and exhibit partiality by punishing an innocent, blameless person, where will citizen go to take shelter for their maintenance and security?
Okay, so the king, government officials, they are supposed to give justice. They are supposed to give protection. They are supposed to act as protector because of love, affection. So this is what they're supposed to do. But if those who are in governmental positions, if they themselves don't give justice, then where the citizens can go for justice? That is the question they're asking. So Prabhupada is talking about the duties of the government. The duty of the government, therefore, is to take charge of training all the citizens in such a way that by gradual process they'll be elevated to the spiritual platform and will realize the self and his relationship with God. Okay, so that is the duty of government. The government people themselves don't know what they will train others. So this principle was followed by kings like Maharaj Yudhishthir, Parikshit, Lord Ramchandra, Maharaj Ambarish, Prahlad Maharaj. The leaders of the government must be very honest and religious, because otherwise all the affairs of the state will suffer. So these are all very important principles. Applicable in outside society, religious society, everywhere these principles are applicable. So if the leaders are not honest, and especially in a spiritual society, if they don't follow religious principles, Shastric principles, then the whole society will be affected. Everyone will have to suffer. So therefore, those who are in leadership position, big responsibility. Not a joke, just to take position and sit there doing nothing. Big responsibility. So therefore, they must be well aware of religious principles. That is what they are saying. They must know what is dharma, what is adharma, what does Shastra say, and act according to those principles. As we have discussed this point many times. Speaking is easy, anybody can do that. But what is important is, yes, following, acting according to those principles. Otherwise, as we were discussing yesterday, yes, they will have to face the reactions. They will have to face reactions. So, honest and religious. Unfortunately, in the name of democracy, rogues and thieves are electing other rogues and thieves to the most important posts in the government. Recently, this has been proven in America, where the president had to be condemned and dragged down from his post by the citizens. Who was that? Yes, Nixon. Prabhupada is not writing name here. Prabhupada is careful. Of course, in lectures he spoke, but purports he is not writing. Because of the importance of the Krishna, so that's also a good lesson for us. We should be careful not to take names in public. So even the lectures Prabhupada spoke, but here he's not writing. Because of the importance of the Krishna consciousness movement, people should be Krishna conscious and should not vote for anyone who is not Krishna conscious. But who is Krishna conscious? Then there will be actual peace and prosperity in the state. When a Vaishnava sees mismanagement in the government, he feels great compassion in his heart and tries his best to purify the situation by spreading the Hare Krishna movement. So this is what Vaishnava should do. So when he sees mismanagement in the government, then he should try to spread Krishna consciousness, because then if people become Krishna conscious, then they will elect at least a somewhat good leader. Very difficult to find. Or maybe one of them will become a leader. So in any case, so here the Vishnudutas are lamenting that if the leaders themselves don't give proper justice and protection, then where can the people go? Text 4, well-known verse. Yadyadachatri shreyan itarastat tad ihate sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate.
The mass of people follow the example of a leader in society and imitate his behavior. They accept as evidence whatever the leader accepts.
Okay, similar to the Bhagavad Gita verse. So that is what they are saying. If the leaders themselves don't give proper justice, they don't follow dharma, then what can be expected of the followers? They will also not follow. Purport. Although Ajamil was not punishable, the Yamadutas were insisting on taking him away to Yamaraj for punishment. This was adharma, contrary to religious principles. The Vishnudutas feared that if such irreligious acts were allowed, the management of human society would be spoiled. In modern times, the Krishna consciousness movement is trying to introduce the right principles of management for human society, But unfortunately, the governments of Kali Yuga do not properly support the Hare Krishna movement because they do not appreciate its valuable service. The Hare Krishna movement is the right movement for ameliorating the fallen condition of human society, and therefore governments and public leaders in every part of the world should support this movement to completely rectify humanity's sinful condition. 5 and 6. Yasyanke shira adhaya loka swapiti nirvritaha swayam dharmam adharmam va nahi veda yatha pashu sakatam nyarpitatmanam krita maitram achetanam visrambhaniya bhutanam sagrino dhogdamarhati.
People in general are not very advanced in knowledge by which to discriminate between religion and irreligion. The innocent, unenlightened citizen is like an ignorant animal sleeping in peace with its head on the lap of its master, faithfully believing in the master's protection. If a leader is actually kind hearted and deserves to be the object of a living entity's faith, how can he punish or kill a foolish person who has fully surrendered in good faith and friendship?
Yes. So, again, similar point they're saying. So, people in general are dependent on the leader. They trust the leader that they will give protection. So, they have, with trust, they are placing their head on the lap of the leader. And if the leader decides to cut off the head, then where they'll go for protection? So just like the child has no other protection than the mother, and if the mother herself decides to kill the child, then where is the hope for protection? So that is what's happening. So therefore, they are saying that if a leader is actually kind-hearted, sagrinaha, soft heart, so then how can he punish or kill a foolish person who has fully surrendered in good faith and friendship? So therefore, one must properly know whom to punish, whom not to punish. So all that must be clearly known. And the type of punishment also varies according to severity of the offense, and also varna. Especially varna. So just like it said, a brahmana, if he does something wrong, then what punishment is ideal? Actually, there is, where is this? Where does this come? It comes in the first canto, I think. It said, the Shastric principle is that the brahmanas, old men, women, children, and saintly persons, these 5 categories of people are not punishable. They are not punishable. Actually, Srila Prabhupada was giving a lecture on this verse. And what happens? And one child starts crying, then what happens? No. So then one leader of those devotees there, you can hear it in the recording. So he loudly says, "So all mothers with children, please go out." And then Srila Prabhupada, no, it's all right. So here there are only brahmanas, there are children, there are women, and old men. So who's punishable? Nobody is punishable. So therefore, why all these personalities are not punishable? Why they're not punishable? Is it just a sentiment or what? Yes, so ideally Brahmanas are supposed to follow dharma. And so ideally they are not supposed to commit mistakes. Yes, and even if they commit some mistake, then the Brahmana is supposed to be sharp enough to realize it and repent and regret and rectify. So therefore, the Kshatriyas have no duty to punish the Brahmanas. So this also is described by Prithu Maharaj after Sanat Kumar's teachings. There also he describes some of these things. So the Brahmanas are not punishable. So these are ideal Brahmanas. So somebody who is on the Brahmanical platform, ideally he is not supposed to commit mistakes because he is supposed to follow Shastra, that is Brahmana. And even if he commits mistakes, he should realize it himself. Or at most, somebody may give a slight indication, that's all. That's all what is required. The Brahmana should be, that's the meaning of Brahmana, his consciousness is elevated. So, a Brahmana it's not required that a Brahmana has to be told 10 times, do this, punished. This is not Brahmana. That is not, these are not the characteristics of Brahmanas. Brahmanas are supposed to be spiritually elevated people. Ideally, they don't commit mistakes. And even if they commit, they will realize it, they will regret, repent, atone, they will do it themselves. So even if we are not on that platform, we have to understand that that's the platform we are supposed to come to. Brahmanical platform, we are supposed to come to that platform. So, good point to think about. How close or how far are we from that Brahmanical platform? So here, and so many temples, attendance. Why? What's the need? Brahmana means self-motivated. Brahmana should realize the importance of performing these spiritual activities. Why should he even be told? Forget about having record and punishments and things like that. This is not for Brahmanas. Okay, at the most for new devotees, those who are being trained, understandable. But after a few years, these things should not be required. If even after a few years these things are being required, means that there's not much progress happening. That's the simple conclusion. Because we are studying Shastra, then we are supposed to understand that all these activities that we are performing, attending Mangalarti, Bhagavatam class, are for whom? For whose benefit? One's own benefit. So one has to have that realization. Why somebody else has to even tell us? There should not even be need for somebody else to tell. That is Brahmana. Therefore, Brahmanas don't require punishment at all. That is the standard. Okay, so then why children, old people, women are not punishable? Okay, less intelligent, ignorant, so?
They are given under protect. They are given under someone.
Okay, they are supposed to be protected by someone. Fine. But why they are not responsible? Why they are not held responsible? Mm, correct. So, this Krishna speaks about this in the Bhagavad Gita 18th chapter. So, where Krishna says that one who is one who does not have ahankar, an-ahankar. I'm not remembering that verse. What is that? In the 18th chapter, Krishna is speaking about this is which. Anyway, just let me open. Na ahankrita bhava. See if you can get that verse. 18:17. What is the verse? Correct. That's right. Translation.
One who is not motivated or cause ego, whose development is not companion. Though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions.
Yes. Na ahankrita bhava. So if one doesn't have the ahankar or the doership mentality, then he's not responsible. So that means he does not know what is right and what is wrong. So therefore he is not responsible. So just like animals, we were reading yesterday also. The animals are not punishable, correct? Why? Yes, basically ignorant. So because they're ignorant and they don't have the doership mentality, they don't understand, I'm doing this, I'm not doing this, this is good, this is bad. They don't have that power of discrimination. And so therefore, because they don't have that ahankar, that doership mentality, therefore they are not responsible for what they're doing. So the same principle applies to a child. So the child is also ignorant like an animal. So therefore, nobody takes seriously what a child does. So just like we see sometimes in our classes, small child makes such a loud noise. Correct? Bah, so loud noise, everyone can hear, everyone is disturbed. But who takes it very seriously? After all, child. Now if an adult screams like that, immediately some action will be taken. So that is child. So therefore, we find that those who are not adults, they are not, even if they commit a crime, they are not tried in the same courts. They have special courts, juvenile courts. Those are not adults. So their punishments and everything are slightly different. And similarly, women, so women are also put in the same category, they're also sort of ignorant. And therefore, they are also supposed to be under protection. That is the reason why children, women, they're supposed to be under protection, because their consciousness is not so much developed. So anyways, so Brahmanas hardly require punishment. Then Kshatriyas? Yes, insult. For Kshatriya, dishonor is worse than death. So for Kshatriya, the punishment is insult. Vaishya? Yes. Some monetary loss, because money is very dear. So some fine. And for Shudra? Yes. Shudra requires stick, like animal. So that is for Shudras. So the type of punishment cannot be the same for everyone, cannot be generalized. It has to vary from person to person. We cannot make blanket rules. So these are important points regarding who can be punished, how to punish. And so we find that as soon as Parikshit Maharaji saw Kaliraj beating the cow and bull, immediately took out his sword. Shudra. So all these things are to be taken into consideration. And therefore we find when Manduka Muni was punished with what? So very severe punishment for something he did in childhood. So therefore he got very upset. This is disproportionate punishment. So therefore he cursed Yamaraj. So therefore one has to know all these things. Also we find in Mahaprabhu's pastime there was this Gopinath Patnaik, Changa punishment. That also was severe punishment. Then he was relieved of that punishment. So these are some important points regarding punishment. So therefore, the Vishnudutas are saying people in general are not very advanced in knowledge to distinguish between dharma and adharma. So therefore, then they're dependent on the leaders. So if the leaders also are not trustworthy, then what will the citizens do? Purport. The Sanskrit word Vishwasta Ghata refers to one who breaks faith or causes a breach of trust. The mass of people should always feel security because of the government's protection. Therefore, how regrettable it is for the government itself to cause a breach of trust and put the citizens in difficulty for political reasons. And then he's talking about the Hindu-Muslim riots at the time of partition. And he's also talking about animals. So the animals are sheltered and the animals have confidence that masters will protect them. But then as soon as the animals are fat, they immediately send for slaughter. So such cruelty is condemned by Vaishnavas like the Vishnudutas. Indeed, the hellish conditions already described await the sinful men responsible for such suffering. Anyway, that also reminds me of this pastime of Prishadra, who mistakenly killed a cow. You know the pastime, right? The son of Vaivasvat Manu. So at night he was protecting the cows and then a tiger came and then it was dark, so mistakenly he killed the cow instead of killing the tiger. And then Vashishta, the spiritual master, he was so upset, "Go Atya, so sinful," and he cursed him to go to hell. But the Bhagavatam, Shukdev Goswami says that Vashishta Muni was less intelligent because for an unknowingly done mistake, he unnecessarily cursed him. So again, disproportionate punishment. So therefore Shukdev Goswami is criticizing him. And of course, Prishadra, he lamented, regretted, and he performed serious devotional service. He atoned, performed serious devotional service, and he never went to hell. He went back to the spiritual world. So yes. So an important principle Prabhupada is writing here. One who betrays the confidence of a living entity who takes shelter of him in good faith, whether that living entity be a human being or an animal, is extremely sinful. Please note this point. One who betrays the confidence of a living entity who takes shelter of him in good faith, whether that living entity be a human being or an animal, is extremely sinful. So if somebody has taken shelter in us, has put faith in us, and we betray that faith, we break the faith, breach of trust. For example, so somebody has put faith in us and he reveals something confidential about his life with the faith that we'll keep it confidential. So he reveals some problems he may be facing so as to get a solution. So he does it with great confidence in us. And the next day, if we put it on social media, what's happening? Breach of trust. And how will that person feel? Sometimes these things have happened. Devastated. That's what happens. He feels devastated. He thinks, I put faith in this person and therefore I reveal my heart so that he'll keep in confidence. But as we have discussed many times, the laws of material nature are very stringent. Nobody escapes. We can misuse our freedom, misuse our power, we can do anything we want, but one has to be ready to face the reaction. So all these are very important principles. So it becomes a great sin if we do that. And of course, if we do it amongst Vaishnavas, then it becomes aparadh. So very important points. And because such betrayals now go unpunished by the government, all of human society is terribly contaminated. And therefore, all the symptoms of Kali Yuga, Prabhupada is mentioning. Okay. 7th verse. Ayam hi krita nirvesho janma kotiyam amhasamapi yad vyajahara vivasho nama swastaya namhare.
Ajamila has already atoned for all his sinful actions. Indeed, he has atoned not only for sins performed in one life, but for those performed in millions of lives. For in a helpless condition, he chanted the holy name of Narayan. Even though he did not chant purely, he chanted without offense, and therefore he is now pure and eligible for liberation.
Okay, so till this verse, till the 6th verse, basically the Vishnudutas were lamenting and condemning the Yamadutas for their wrong action, for their wrong decision. And they're saying, what's happening in the assembly of Yamaraj? There's supposed to be justice, but here there's injustice happening. So, first of all, they condemned what the Yamadutas were trying to do. And now, from the 7th verse onwards, till the 20th verse, from the 7th verse to the 20th verse, this entire section, basically, they are describing why Ajamil is not eligible for the punishment. That is what they're describing. So after they shastrically, authoritatively prove to the Yamadutas that this Ajamil is not fit for punishments. So after describing in all these verses, after that, they release Ajamil. And the Yamadutas had to go. So that's what happens. Now these verses from 7 to 20, which prove that Ajamil is sinless, these verses are very important for us to understand. Because in all these verses, basically they are describing the glories of the holy name. And as we will see to the 9th and the 10th verses, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given elaborate commentary, very long commentary. And we will go through that. I don't know if you want to see it, you have to arrange something. 9th and 10th verses, very close. Depends if you want to see it, otherwise, up to you. So, very long commentary and very important for devotees to understand actually. Very important. He's talking about so many aspects of the chanting of the holy names and devotional service. And all of them are very practical points which as devotees is very important for us to understand and apply, and also, of course, to preach to others. Okay. So now in the 7th verse, they are saying that ayam hi krita nirveshaha, because that was the point which the Yamadutas said. If you remember, in the last chapter, after describing all the sinful activities of Ajamil, then what they said? They said that he has performed all these sins and at the same time, he has not atoned for them. And because he has not atoned for them, therefore he must be punished. That was what they said at the end. So therefore now the Vishnudutas are saying, no, he has undergone all kinds of atonement, krita nirvesha. For what? Janma koti amhasam. Not only for sins of this lifetime, but hundreds of lifetimes. Millions, koti, janma koti, millions of lifetimes of sins he has already atoned for. Why? Vyajahara vivasha nama. Vivasha nama. In a helpless condition, he has called out the holy name. And just to elaborate on that, in the translation, Prabhupada, what does he put in the translation? He does not say just a helpless condition. He adds one more thing. What is that? He chanted without offense. So he chanted helplessly and without offense. So Prabhupada is adding that just to clarify things. Helplessly and without offense. Therefore, swasti ayanam hare. Therefore, he has become eligible for liberation. Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada is almost repeating the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Prabhupada is quoting those same verses. So, Srila Prabhupada is writing, the Yamadutas had considered only the external situation of Ajamil. Since he was extremely sinful throughout his life, they thought he should be taken to Yamaraj and did not know that he had become free from the reactions of all his sins. The Vishnudutas therefore instructed that because he had chanted the 4 syllables of the name Narayana at the time of his death, he was freed from all sinful reactions. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes the following verses from the Smriti Shastra. First is from the Brihad Vishnu Puran. Namno hi yavati shakti papa nirharane hare tavat kartum na shaknoti patakam pataki naraha. Simply by chanting one holy name of Hari, a sinful man can counteract the reactions to more sins than he is able to commit. Simply by chanting one holy name, sinful man can counteract the reactions to more sins than he is able to commit. And then from the Garud Puran, Avashenapi annamni kirtite sarvapatake puman vimuchyate sadhya simhastraster mriger iva. If one chants the holy name of the Lord, even in a helpless condition or without desiring to do so, all the reactions of his sinful life depart, just as when a lion roars, all the small animals flee in fear. That is the power of the holy name. And then from the Skanda Puran, Sakrid ucharitam yena harir ityakshara dvayam bhaddha parikarastena mokshaya gamanam prati. By once chanting the holy name of the Lord, which consists of the two syllables Hari, one guarantees his path to liberation. These are some of the reasons why the Vishnudutas objected to the Yamadutas taking Ajamil to the court of Yamaraj. Okay, so there's all atonement has been done, not only for sins of this life, millions of lives. All sins have been eradicated. 8th verse. Eteneva hi aghonosya kritam syadaganishkritam yada narayanayeti jagada chaturaksharam. Read.
The Vishnu Dutas continue. Even previously, while eating and at other times, this Ajamil would call his son, saying, "My dear Vadan, please come here." Although calling the name of his son, he nevertheless uttered the 4 syllables Narayana. Simply by chanting the name of Narayan, in this way he sufficiently atoned for the sinful reactions of millions of lives.
So he not only called, they are saying he not only called Narayan at the time when the Yamadutas had come, but even before, so many times he called Narayan, addressing his son. We read that before. My dear Narayan, please come, eat this, drink this, do that. So many times he called out Narayan. So therefore, he has sufficiently atoned for the sinful reactions of millions of lives. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada writes, previously when engaged in sinful activities to maintain his family, Ajamil chanted the name of Narayan without offenses. That is the important point. The crux of the matter is this. Without offenses. To chant the holy name of the Lord just to counteract one's sinful activities or to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name is offensive. Namno baladyasi papuddhi. But although Ajamil engaged in sinful activities, he never chanted the holy name of Narayan to counteract them. He simply chanted the name Narayan to call his son. Therefore, his chanting was effective. Because of chanting the holy name of Narayan in this way, he had already vanquished the accumulated sinful reactions of many, many lives. In the beginning, he was pure. But although he later committed many sinful acts, he was offenseless because he did not chant the holy name of Narayan to counteract them. One who always chants the holy name of the Lord without offenses is always pure. Important points. One who always chants the holy name of the Lord without offenses is always pure. As confirmed in this verse, Ajamil was already sinless, and because he chanted the name of Narayan, he remained sinless. It did not matter that he was calling his son, the name itself was effective. And Vishwanath Thakur writes, but Ajamil did not chant with awareness that this was atonement. He called out for his son because he was afraid of us. Now that's the Yamadutas are saying. You do not understand the truth. Being materialistic, you do not understand. The Vishnudutas are saying, being materialistic, you do not understand. Even by calling for his son, while not seeking to make atonement of the sinner was accomplished. Just chanting at this time for his son is the atonement for all his sins. He was calling for his son, but he was calling Narayan, therefore all atonement has been done. However, previously he chanted in ungrammatical language. Oh Narayan, come here from your mother's lap to my lap. They're giving that as an example. The atonement took place then. Not only chanting 4 syllables, but chanting the Lord's name in 2 syllables or 1 syllable also destroys all sins. So they are saying 4 syllables also not required. Even 2, 1 is also sufficient. All right, na? Size is okay, na? Okay, so now we will go to this 9th and 10th verse. So here comes a very long commentary. Okay, first let's recite these 2 verses. Stena surapo mitra dhrug brahmaha guru talpagha stri raja pitri gohanta yecha patakino pare sarveshamapya aghavatam idam eva sunishkritam nama vyaharanam vishnor yatastad vishayamati. Read.
The chanting of the holy name of Lord Vishnu is the best process of atonement for a thief of gold or other valuables, for a drunkard, for one who betrays a friend or relative, for one who kills a brahmana, or for one who indulges in sex with the wife of his guru or another superior. It is also the best method of atonement for one who murders women, the king or his father, for one who slaughters cows, and for all other sinful men. Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my holy name, my duty is to give him protection.
Yes, that's what the Lord thinks. So even though very sinful, the Lord thinks, this man has chanted my holy name, it is my duty to give protection. Okay, so now we will read this commentary. I think so, Srila Prabhupada doesn't give any commentary to these verses, right? But we will read this long commentary and we'll try to understand. So he says, the name of the Lord may destroy sins, but how can Namabhas be the atonement for thousands of grave sins which cannot be destroyed by thousands of 12-year vows? 12-year vows means some karmakanda prayaschitta. So he says, Thena means gold thief. Chanting is the best atonement, sunishkritam, since it destroys the root of sin. This point we already discussed, right? A 12-year vow of atonement, though it destroys the effects of sin, cannot destroy the root of sin. Right? That means the tendency, the desire to commit sin, or the avidya. That is not destroyed by doing some prayaschitta according to karmakand, like this 12-year vow. That is not the only result, because from chanting the name of the Lord's mind dwells on that person who chants, tad vishayamatihi. The Lord thinks, this person belongs to me. I will always protect him. This is Sridhar Swami's meaning of the phrase. So if one chants even once, the Lord thinks, now this person belongs to me. I will protect him. So even if once somebody chants, the Lord takes charge. ठीक है? Okay. Now, he's presenting many arguments that can be asked. Very practical arguments. Many of us also may have such questions. But he's already, that's what the acharyas do. They already ask the questions which we are going to ask. And then they give answer also. So now he's asking a question. Hearing his name being chanted and remembering Ajamil, the Lord ordered us to bring Ajamil, who was chanting his name. Then how much more the Lord will remember a person who chants the Lord's name with a service attitude? This is the implication. So, just because this Ajamil chanted his name, the Lord told the Vishnudutas, go and get him. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti is saying, so Ajamil was not even calling out to the Lord and this was the effect. Then how much more benefit somebody will get who chants the Lord's name knowingly, with service attitude, how much more benefit he'll get. To show this to the servants of Yama, the servants of Vishnu said that Ajamil chanting at the time of death had destroyed all his sins. But actually, from the first time that Ajamil called his son Narayan, the first time that Ajamil called out to his son Narayan, out of all times he called, all his sins had been destroyed. So the first time that he called his son Narayan, that time itself, all sins were destroyed. Therefore he's saying, the rest of the chanting after that produced bhakti. So sins were destroyed. By once calling only, sins were destroyed. And afterwards, when he was calling his son, so many times he called, that all increased his bhakti. The past tense of Yad Vyajahara, he chanted, in verse 7 also indicates that from the first time he chanted the name, all sins had been destroyed. The word Vivasha in that verse means spontaneously, out of affection for his child. Okay. Then he says, but after chanting repeatedly, there were repeated sins, such as going to the prostitute and drinking wine. In order to destroy those sins, he had to chant at the end of his life, since there was again appearance of sin. So he chanted in the beginning, okay, all the previous sins were destroyed. But then he also committed new sins, no? He was committing new sins. And so he continued sinning till the end of his life. So therefore, when he chanted Narayan at the time of death, then all the sins were eradicated. Please try to hear this discussion attentively. It will be beneficial. For those who are finding it difficult, please try to be attentive. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this cannot be said, because it will be said later, Vaikuntha Nama Grahanam Ashesha Aghaharam. Chanting the Lord's name destroys unlimited sins. This is coming in the future verses, 16th verse. The following verses also show that chanting releases one from the bondage of samsara. So he's quoting this verse from Hari Bhakti Vilas. All sins in the present, past and future are quickly destroyed by chanting the name of Govinda, which is like fire. And then he's quoting another verse. Yannama sakrit shravanat bhukasho api vimucheta samsarat. By hearing one of your names once, even the outcast is delivered from the material worlds. And then he's quoting another verse from the 5th canto, 5.135, which says that such power is not surprising from persons who have conquered the 6 senses by the dust from the lotus feet of the Lord, since even an outcast becomes immediately free of bondage of karma by chanting the Lord's name even once. Because there is no mention of a particular time span for the effect to occur, it should be understood that by the first chanting, there is destruction of all sins, all desires, as well as ignorance, which is the root cause, because only then sin will not reappear in the future. Just see. By chanting the name once, not only the reactions are destroyed, the desires as well as ignorance, everything is destroyed. Then he's asking a question. Why then did sin not leave Ajamil after chanting the first time? Valid question, no? If you say that sinful desires are destroyed by one holy name, then this fellow kept on committing sinful activities. Then why he kept on committing? How could he continue to be attached to the woman and commit sin for so long if all his sins had been destroyed? So now he is giving answer to this question. Like the karmas of the Jivan Mukta which remain for some time simply as an impression, Ajamil's sins which lasted till his death were like the bites of a toothless snake and did not generate results. So that's why that verse is then Protkatadam Straite. Kala Sarpa Patari. Protkatadam Strayate. So, later on, even though he committed sinful activities, they did not have any reaction, like the bite of a toothless snake. No reaction. First time he called out Narayan itself, all material desires finished. All desires to commit sin finished. But still he kept on committing sinful activities. They did not have any reaction. That's what he... Moreover, now another reason he gives. Why the sinful tendencies and sinful reactions may continue. Even though one holy name is sufficient, why the sinful tendencies and reactions may continue is giving another reason. Moreover, the Lord Himself will cause continuance of sin in order that other philosophies, karmakanda, etc., will not be completely uprooted. This is another reason. So it means that if all the sinful reactions, sinful desires, everything is eradicated, that means the person will no longer suffer, right? If there are no sinful desires, no sinful reactions, then the person will no longer suffer. Then what will be the result? Say that? People in general will misuse the holy name. They will think, bahut acha hai. So then they will think that, okay, very nice, I'll chant holy name and get rid of all sins. Why should I go and perform karmakand and do prayaschitta and do all that? This is much easier, right? Just chant the holy names. Very nice. No more sinful reactions. So then who will do karmakand? Nobody will do karmakand. So, on one hand, the Lord does not want people to misuse, and also all these other karmakand, jnanakand, who has given? Lord Himself has given for different types of people according to their level. So He does not want to nullify these other processes. So that's what He's saying. The Lord Himself will cause continuance of sin in order that other philosophies, karmakand, etc. will not be completely uprooted. So then people, if they see, array, devotee also still sinful desires, still he is suffering, then they will think better go and do karmakand. At least that is more definite. So that is another reason why Even though by one chanting of the holy name everything is destroyed, but still the Lord Himself will not manifest that. He will allow the sinful desires and sinful tendencies to continue. Okay, then he says, if one were to explain the scriptural statements concerning the powers of the name to be exaggerated praise of the Lord's name, then one would be committing offense. Okay, so if one thinks that all these effects of the holy name mentioned is exaggeration, then it is offense. Which offense? In the 10 offenses, which offense? What is the fifth offense? Yes, to consider the glories of chanting the holy name to be imagination. And the sixth is to give some interpretation. But this is the fifth offense that he's talking about. That this is exaggeration. Then it is an offense. Tathartha vado hari namni kalpanam. It is an offense to interpret the name or think its powers are exaggeration. And then he's quoting from the Padma Puran. Namashraya kadachat syat tarati eva sa namata namno hi sarva surido hi aparadhat patati adha. One who takes shelter of the name at any time crosses material life by the name. One falls to hell from offense to the name of the Lord, the friend of all beings. So the holy name is very, very powerful, but if one commits offense, patati adha, he falls down to hell. And then he's quoting another one from the Katyayana Samhita, similar thing. Those most sinful of men who interpret the name of the Lord fall to hell. So therefore, from the Padma Puran, that person who even after hearing about the wonderful results of chanting the Lord's name, refused to develop sincere faith in the name, and on the contrary interprets the name, is hurled by me into the deep gloom of material nations after being dragged through excruciating suffering. So therefore we find in the pastime of Haridas Thakur and Gopal Chakravarti. You remember that? So Haridas Thakur was, yes, at the house of Raghunath Das Goswami, Hiranya and Govardhan Mazam. So there Haridas Thakur was explaining all these glories of the holy name, and Gopal Chakravarti could not believe. Hari, what is this? You say mukti is simply an insignificant byproduct of chanting? Jnanis and yogis perform so much tapasya for mukti, and you say it's insignificant byproduct? And the result of that was, he got leprosy. So, here also is quoting from the Jaimini Samhita. Persons who interpret the Shrutis, Smritis and Puranas which wonderfully glorify the Lord's name stay in hell forever. Thus, from scriptures like Padma Puran and Katyayana Samhita, there are thousands of statements showing fall down from interpreting the name. Parikshit has just said, after withdrawing from sin, one commits the sin again. I think atonement is useless, like an elephant bathing, that we have already read. 6.1.10, Kunjara Shauchavat. He has condemned atonements because of seeing that the tendency for sin remains, but he does not criticize bhakti, though seeing sinful tendencies in some of the devotees. So, he said that is Kunjara Shauchavat. What? Karmakand atonement. But he didn't say something similar for bhakti, isn't it? When Shukdev Goswami finally said bhakti, Parikshit Maharaj accepted. Agam dunvanti katsyena niharam eva bhaskara. At that time, Parikshit Maharaj didn't say, oh, it doesn't happen that way. That is also Kunjara Shauchavat. He didn't say that. So he did not criticize bhakti, though seeing sinful tendencies in some of the devotees. So even though sinful tendencies are seen in some of the devotees, but still Parikshit Maharaj did not criticize the process of bhakti. And Ajamil, a sinner, by the strength of Namabhas attained Vaikuntha. But Smartas and others, though knowing scriptures and though chanting the name, continue existence in frightful samsar because of the offense of interpreting the name. So if one interprets the name or thinks the glories of the name is exaggeration, then that is a great offense. And then they have to continue in sansar. But one should not worry that everyone will immediately become liberated on seeing such power in the name. Though sin is completely uprooted just by chanting the name once, in most cases, this is another important point, please note. In most cases, the name shows its fruits to the world after some time. Just as fruit trees bear fruit after some time only, not immediately. So the wonderful effects of the chanting of the holy name are not seen immediately. Of course, there are many other terms and conditions apply. As we go ahead, we'll see that. But the effects of the holy name are not seen immediately. Krishna will not allow them to be seen. Otherwise, if a devotee he experiences all the wonderful effects, and if he thinks now all my sins are eradicated, no more sinful reactions, he'll go to sleep. अभी और भक्ति करने की क्या जरूरत है? अभी सब कुछ हो गया ना? और क्या भक्ति करना है? Wait. Hold on. So therefore Krishna does not reveal all these things immediately. Okay, so now we may think, now we know it, but from the Shastra we know. So we can relax now. All sinful reactions, everything finished. Relax. Stop the Bhakti Vaibhav course. Okay, hold on. And in some cases, the name does not show its effects at all, in order that the material scriptures such as Karmakanda are not completely destroyed. Similar point, we already discussed that. Then after doing this, the name takes the person who has chanted without offense to the Lord's abodes. Okay? So then later on, the results are seen. Then the ultimate result is goes to the Lord's abodes. But who? Who has chanted without offense. The conclusion should be understood. I accept that because of offense to the name, those who interpret the name as exaggeration go to hell. However, if chanting the name destroys all sins, all karmis, jnanis, yogis and bhaktas should not go to hell for illicit sex or violence if they chant. And if the name does not destroy all sin, all these people and even the bhakta should go to hell to suffer the results of this sin, even if they chant. You understand the question he's raising? So he's saying, if chanting the name destroys all sins, so karmis, jnanis, yogis, bhaktas, all of them chant the holy name. Because a true karmi, jnani, yogi, they understand that they require some bhakti to achieve the results of their own path. So therefore they also chant the holy name. So that means if they chant the holy name, even if they commit illicit sex, violence or whatever sinful activities, they should not go to hell. And if you say that the name does not destroy all sin, and these people continue to commit sinful activities, be saved from hell. They should all go to hell for all these sinful activities. Now, he gives an example. He says, now this point is very important to understand. Each of these points is very important. Though a merchant protects a person under his shelter, many of these points are also actually explained in Madhuri Kadamani also by Vishwanath Thakur. Though a merchant protects a person under his shelter according to the degree that the person surrenders to him, if the person offends him, the merchant becomes displeased with him and does not give protection to that surrendered person. To give an example, so he's given the example of a merchant. In Madhuri Kadamani, he elaborates this a little more, or in a slightly different way, he says. For example, suppose a servant is serving a rich merchant, and suppose the poor servant, he wants money for his daughter's marriage. Can he give or not? He can give, no? Depends on what? Yes, depends upon the relation. So if the servant has offended the master, displeased the master, then what will happen? Even though he can give, he will not give because he is displeased. Note this point, this is the crux of the whole subject matter. This is the most important point here. He is able to give, but still he does not give because he is displeased. But one should not think that merchant is incapable of protecting him. No, he is capable, but still he does not do it. And according to the degree that the offense diminishes, the merchant begins to show mercy to that person. When the offense is completely gone, the merchant shows all mercy. The name is similar. This is the central point here. If we just understand this one point of this discussion, that is the most crucial point. The name is similar. Those who take shelter of Bhakti Devi, representing the name, as a secondary practice in order to bring out results of karma and jnana are called karmis and jnanis. So the karmis and jnanis, they use bhakti. Correct? They use bhakti to get the results of karma and jnana. So therefore they use bhakti as a secondary practice. So though bhakti is present in a minor position, this is according to the rule that things are named according to the predominant factor. Thus, they are thus not called Vaishnavas. Karmis and Jnanis are not called Vaishnavas because bhakti is not prominent. It is only minor position. By their natures, they are offenders to the name in one aspect. For it is said, Dharma Vratatyagutadi Sarva Shubha Kriya Samyapapi Pramadha. This is the eighth offense. What is the eighth offense? Yes, to consider the chanting of the holy name as one of the ritualistic activities mentioned in the Karma Kanda. So the eighth offense is to consider the name equivalent to dharma, vrata, sacrifices and other Karma Kanda rites. If considering the name to be equal to karma and dharma is an offense, then the offense is much more if one considers the name secondary to karma and dharma being a mere limb of karma or dharma. Understood this point? So if one equates the name to karma kanda, that itself is an offense. And what do the karmis and jnanis do? They are not even equating. They are making the name secondary. They are not even putting it equal level. They are making it secondary. That means even bigger offense. Even bigger offense. Therefore, but still, though recognizing that they have offended her, out of compassion, Bhakti Devi thinks karma yoga and these other processes should not be fruitless, since they have accepted a small portion of her shelter. Thus, though she has become only a limb of karma, she gives the results of karma, jnana and other processes without obstruction. That is her mercy. So even though they commit this offense by considering bhakti secondary, still she thinks, okay, they have taken shelter of some aspect of bhakti. ठीक है. She still gives the results of karma and jnana. Similarly, when bhakti is a limb of atonement, she destroys the sins in those persons practicing atonements. It is not otherwise. And those who do not perform atonements go to hell to experience the results of their sins. However, Vaishnavas do not need to perform atonements. Furthermore, if those persons, please note this point, furthermore, if those persons commit other offenses such as interpreting the name or committing offense to the devotee and then perform dharma and other process, Bhakti Devi gives them no results for their efforts, even though she is still a limb of dharma and other processes. So see, I hope you're understanding this point. So karmis and jnanis, they may consider the name to be secondary to karma and jnana. They may put Bhakti Devi, the holy name, in a secondary position. But Bhakti Devi, she says, that's all right. She thinks, okay, they're at least performing some bhakti. She does not mind offenses to herself. She does not mind offenses to herself. But if those persons commit other offenses, one offense is putting the name and bhakti in a secondary position. But if they commit other offenses such as interpreting the name or committing offenses to devotees, then Bhakti Devi gives no results. Understood the point? So if they keep her in a secondary position, she does not matter. She does not take it so seriously. ठीक है, छोड़ दो, कोई बात नहीं. But if they commit other offenses like interpreting the name or committing offenses to devotees, then she is thoroughly displeased. Then she does not give any results. Kete aparadha vipendra namno bhagavata krita vinignanti nrinam krityam prakritam hi anayanti cha. O Brahmana, offenses to the name destroy men's pious actions and lead them to material worlds. If those persons become free from offense and dedicate themselves to chanting or other bhakti processes, they will get the results from their karma and jnana in proportion to the destruction of offenses. So when these people who have performed these other offenses, which other offenses? Which other offenses? Interpreting the holy name and offenses to devotees. So then they get no results of their karma and jnana. Then they have to atone for their offenses. Then in proportion to the destruction of those offenses, they will get the results of karma and jnana. However, with complete destruction of offense by association with devotees, attainment of the results of chanting is certain by the direct mercy of Bhakti Devi. So when the offense is completely destroyed by associating with devotees, serving the devotees, then they get the complete mercy of Bhakti Devi. So now he says, from the words of the servants of Yama, it is understood that Ajamil was previously involved in karma. He says he was not a devotee, but performing devotees bhakti secondarily, and therefore all his sins should not have been removed by chanting. That is true. And by sinful acts like drinking, his status as a Brahmana was destroyed. What to speak of his pious acts of karma? So he says previously there was not much bhakti. So basically some bhakti was there, but his main focus was karma kandiya things. Some bhakti was there. So that was Ajamil's situation. And then he performed all these sinful acts with the prostitute, drinking and all that. So it will be explained, Ajamil was a Brahmana who because of bad association had given up all Brahmanical culture and religious principles. Becoming most fallen, he stole, drank, performed other abominable acts. He even kept a prostitute. When his pious karma were destroyed, his secondary bhakti was also destroyed. Okay? So, his pious karmas were destroyed. Because of all the sins, his pious karmas were destroyed. And then because of all those sins, his secondary bhakti, the bhakti which was secondary to his karma, that bhakti also was destroyed. But then what happened? Then pure bhakti appeared. First it was what? Secondary bhakti. He was performing karma kanda and his bhakti was only secondary. But then what happened? Pure bhakti appeared when he called out the name of his son Narayan. So when he called out Narayan, pure bhakti appeared. Because that calling out of Narayan was done offenselessly and helplessly, vivasha. So therefore, pure bhakti appeared. Then he is asking another question. But if there is a scriptural rule that one should perform bhakti as a limb of karma or jnana, how can that be offensive? He says one should not recognize as authoritative scriptures those statements which permit secondary bhakti out of mercy for persons of crooked mentality who have no faith in bhakti but faith in karma and jnana, and do not believe statements like all processes accomplish their results by bhakti alone. By particle of bhakti, the greatest sins are destroyed. In attaining Swarga through animal sacrifices by following rules, the fault of violence is not destroyed. Similarly, though the offender attains the results of karma and jnana by secondary bhakti according to rules, his offense is not destroyed. Okay, his offense of keeping bhakti secondary, that is not destroyed. So therefore, okay, now comes something very much relevant for devotees. Now please try to hear this part at least attentively. Those offenders who accept a Vaishnav Guru by Vaishnav initiation, take shelter of Bhakti Devi purely or as a primary process, but mixed. That means there are also some other material motives. And then worship the Lord by chanting are called Vaishnavas. Correct? Who are Vaishnavas? Who accept Vaishnav Guru by Vaishnava initiation, they take shelter of Bhakti Devi purely or as a primary process. So, karma, there could be contamination of karma and jnana secondarily, but primary process they follow is bhakti. And then worship the Lord by chanting, they're called Vaishnavas. According to the degree of bhakti, they attain destruction of offenses. And according to the degree of Bhakti Devi's mercy, they attain the principal result of bhakti, which is prema. The principal result of bhakti is what? Prema. When will they attain that? When there is destruction of offenses and according to the degree of Bhakti Devi's mercy. So then he's quoting this verse from the 11th canto, which says, to the degree that the Atma becomes purified by hearing and chanting my glories, this is Krishna himself speaking, this is Uddhava Gita. To the degree that the Atma becomes purified by hearing and chanting my glories, a person is able to perceive my real form and qualities and experience their sweetness, just as the eye, when smeared with special ointment, is able to see finer objects. That means the Lord reveals himself to the degree one is purified by hearing and chanting. And then he's quoting the well-known verse, Bhakti Parishanubhava Vrikti, we know that verse. And then he's quoting Shrinvatam Swakada Krishna, to show that how, by the performance of Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, one becomes purified. Okay? By these statements, it is understood that those persons gradually ascend through the 14 stages of Bhakti. You remember? 14 stages of bhakti, Vishwanath Thakur gives in this section of the first canto, second chapter, verses 16 to 21. 16, those verses are talking about going from Adhav Shraddha to Prema. 9 stages he divides into 14 stages. And in these cases, faith and other steps are prescribed. In this chapter also it is said, Gunanuvada Khalu Sattva Bhavana. Chanting the Lord's glories is the process for purification. When all their offenses are gradually destroyed and they attain the Lord, they are liberated from this world. However, for those without offense, attainment of the Lord is quick. Such persons have only 2 stages. They don't have to go through 14 stages. They have only 2 stages. What is that? Chanting the Lord's name and attaining Vaikuntha. Was it out? See, those 9 stages you know, no? From Adhav Shraddha to Prema. That Vishwanath Thakur divides into 14 stages. Okay, if you want, you can revise that. That comes in first canto, second chapter. We had discussed that time. So, normally a sadhaka has to go through those 14 stages or 9 stages, whatever. But here he is saying, if there are no offenses, only 2 stages. Chanting the Lord's name and going to Vaikuntha. That's all. Where is the problem? Where is the problem? There is only one problem. What is that? Offenses. The only problem in our bhakti is offenses. That is the only obstacle, the only challenge. There is no other challenge. That's what we will see now. That's what he explains. So therefore, he is quoting from Mahabharata. The devotees of Vasudeva have no misfortune at all. They surpass birth, death, old age and disease. And then he's quoting another from the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam. A person fixed in dharma attains the post of Brahma after 100 births, and by more pious acts a person attains me. But the devotee attains the abode of Vaikuntha after leaving the body, just as I in another form reside there, and the devtas of qualified go there after destroying the subtle bodies. However, now he gives another example. He says, however, some devotees without offense who desire to attain a special prema are delayed in attaining the Lord. For instance, Jat Bharat took 3 lives to attain the Lord. So Bharat Maharaj also, in one sense, he did not commit offense, right? He did not commit offense, but still he took 3 lives. So he says, to attain a special prema. Of course, in other places, Vishwanath Thakur also says that that was orchestrated by the Lord. Bharat Maharaj pastime was orchestrated by the Lord to teach sadhakas a lesson, that how we should be careful. So that was the main purpose. Now, among those devotees having offense, if some, because of not worshipping the Lord properly, do not destroy previous sins and continue to sin and to be offenders, they do not go to the hell after leaving the body. Okay. So he is discussing, so if there is no offense, very simple. Chant the holy names, go to Vaikuntha. But now he is talking about those who commit offenses. So those who commit offenses, so they could be seva apradhs because of not worshipping the Lord properly. Or they are still committing sinful activities. They continue to sin. They continue to offend. But even though they may continue to sin and offend, at least they will not go to hell. They will not go to hell. And then he's quoting, to prove this, he's giving some quotations. So he says, Yamaraj, seeing his followers with noose in his hand, says in his ear, do not take devotees surrendered to Madhusudan. I am the master of other men, but not the Vaishnavas. And then here in the 6th canto only, 6.3.27, next chapter, Yamaraj tells, do not approach those who have surrendered to the Lord, who see everything equally, who have proper conduct, who are praised with pure narrations by Devatas and Siddhas. Since they are protected by the club of the Lord, we, including Brahma and even time, do not have power to punish them. So Yamaraj says, don't get the Vaishnavas. So Yama repeatedly has told us, Yamadutas are saying, Yama repeatedly has told us with care, you must leave the Vaishnavas. Moreover, the Lord himself says, this is 11th canto, "Oh Uddhava, because I have personally established it, this process of Nishkam Bhakti is beyond the gunas. Even by starting and not completing the process, there is no destruction of results." Thus, since even the sprout of bhakti is imperishable, unaffected by sin, and always productive, a person will definitely take birth only in order that bhakti bears leaves and fruits in the future, and not because of temporary sin and piety. So even if the sprout of bhakti begins, that means even if bhakti begins, that bhakti is always gunatit. Bhakti is never affected by three gunas. So therefore, that bhakti, that sprout of bhakti, the beginning of bhakti is also unaffected by sin. And so that bhakti, even though little bhakti, that's what Krishna is also saying, na? Swalpam piyasa dharmasya. So that little bhakti will bear its fruits, the leaves and fruits. And so therefore, na karma bandhanam janma vaishnavanam cha vidyate. The worshippers of Vishnu do not have birth due to karma. Thus, after the destruction of sin and offenses by chanting the name, which is caused by impressions of previous bhakti, persons attain the Lord by the mercy of Bhakti Devi. So he's saying that when somebody who has begun bhakti, he even takes another birth. That another birth is not based on karma. That next birth is simply to complete his bhakti or to proceed in bhakti. And that is orchestrated by the Lord himself or Bhakti Devi. It is not due to karma. That is what he's saying. And so he's quoting this verse which I've already studied, 1519. Navai jano jatu katanchana vraja. The person who serves Mukunda will never undergo any condition of returning to the material world, unlike practitioners of other processes. Remembering the embrace of the Lord's lotus feet, eager for that taste he has experienced, he will not desire to give up those feet. That's also a beautiful purport. But the conclusion is what? In the above verse, Anyavat means like those practicing karma. The devotee will not attain the world of piety and sin, but will accept the world of happiness and distress given by the Lords. So, okay, I'm leaving this quote from the 10th canto. Those who have not destroyed offenses to the name will continue to experience the undestroyed effects of sin. Those who have not destroyed offenses to the name will continue to experience the undestroyed effects of sin. When by increase of bhakti, by practicing it, the offenses to the name will be destroyed, the root of sin will be destroyed, and the person will immediately attain the Lord. So if somebody is committing offenses, then he will have to continue to suffer sinful reactions. It's not due to karma. Now he's going to explain that. He will have to suffer reactions. If somebody is committing offenses, he will have to suffer reactions. It's only when the offenses are destroyed that the root of sin will be destroyed. What's the root of sin? Avidya. So that means as long as offenses are there, avidya will continue. And sins will continue, and the reactions to sins also will continue. As long as offenses are continuing. That is what we are discussing. The whole problem is due to offenses. Because those offenses displease Bhakti Devi. So that is why that example of the merchant. So Bhakti Devi, the holy name, has full power capacity to neutralize everything. All sinful reactions, sinful desires, everything can be destroyed. But when will she do it? When will she do it? Just like the merchant, when will he help the servant? When he is pleased. He has capacity to help the servant, but he will do it when he is pleased. The same principle applies. So Bhakti Devi is very powerful. She can neutralize everything. All sinful reactions, sinful desires, everything can be neutralized. Only thing is, she should be pleased. And she becomes displeased by offenses. So therefore, if offenses continue, then avidya is not destroyed. Sinful tendencies are not destroyed. Sins will continue and sinful reactions also will continue. This is what happens. But then in order to increase the bhakti, so then what's the solution? The solution is bhakti has to be increased. Offenses have to be reduced. But then he says in order to increase the bhakti, those devotees may even take 1, 2 or 3 lifetimes to attain the Lord. So, this is reality. Now, the material happiness, means on the material platform, seen in those devotees arises from the practice of bhakti. It is not karma. Okay, whatever happens in the life of devotee is not due to karma. It is said, so then he's quoting this dharmasya pavargasa, we know the verse. And similarly, the suffering seen in those devotees are given by the Lord. Happiness is also given by the Lord. Suffering is also given by the Lord. I don't know, those of you who have read that 88th chapter of the Krishna book. We told you to read sometime. No? Those who have read it, there Srila Prabhupada very clearly mentions, of course it's based on the Acharya's commentaries only, that happiness and distress in the life of a devotee is given by Krishna directly. It is not due to karma. Same thing here. The suffering seen in those devotees are given by the Lord, who is skillful at increasing the devotion of his devotee. So why he gives suffering? To increase the devotion. Who is skillful at increasing devotion of his devotee. And who is like a doctor who makes a person fast and gives bitter medicine for increasing appetite. That is what Krishna does. If you remember in the Narad boy pastime, Krishna disappears. And then he says, the main reason why he disappeared is to increase his longing, to increase his humility, to increase his attraction. That is the reason. That is what the Lord wants to produce. And then he's quoting the well-known verse, Yasyam anugrunami harishe tadhanam shane. So that's what the Lord does. Simply to purify the devotee, he gives that suffering. But again, the point is, all this happiness, suffering in the life of devotee is given by Krishna directly. It is not karma. We should be clear about this point. And as we have been reading the whole thing, when does Krishna take note? When does Krishna take note of a person? When he chants one holy name. As soon as somebody chants one holy name, he comes under Krishna's supervision. He comes under Krishna's supervision. Then Krishna starts reciprocating with that person. Now, very important. Now we are coming to the most important aspects. Among the 10 offenses, the very strong effects of interpreting the name, thinking its glories are exaggeration, and equating it to pious acts are obstacles to being a Vaishnava. Okay, so these are main obstacles. Interpreting the name, thinking the glories to be exaggeration, equating it to pious acts, they are obstacles to being a Vaishnava. Among the other offenses, 2 are very strong. What are they? Offending the devotees and committing sin on the strength of chanting. So among the 10 offenses, these are the most dangerous. One is interpreting, thinking the glories to be exaggeration, thinking it to be equal to pious activities. This is one big offense. And two other great offenses are offending devotees and namno baladya sahi papa buddhi. So these are the greatest obstacles for a devotee. And if one commits these offenses, Bhakti Devi is displeased. And if she is displeased, even though she is very powerful, she doesn't do anything. She is displeased. So she says, okay, you go on suffering. Until the devotee atones for those offenses, rectifies those offenses, she does not give the mercy. This is what we have to guard against. That's all. This is what we have to guard against. But that is the most difficult. And then he says, those two are particularly described in a frightening way. So he says, he's quoting from the Padma Purana, how can the name tolerate criticism of those who spread the name? Yatha kyatim yatam katam u sahate tad vigarham. So if one criticizes those who are spreading the name, Bhakti Devi, she cannot tolerate. She cannot even tolerate. And then, namno baladyasi papa buddhi, dhina vidyate tasya yamer hi shuddhi. For a person who commits sin on the strength of chanting, there is no purification by the servants of Yama. Even servants of Yamaraj have no way to purify such an individual. So what happened to? That's another discussion, we'll come to that. So now he's saying, there is no other means of destroying the effects of these two offenses than to continually chant the name while suffering appropriately for the offense. The effects of the other offenses will be destroyed simply by continual chanting without the suffering. So these two offenses, which two? Vaishnava Prad and yes, committing sin on the strength of the holy name. No, so he's especially talking about these two. So the result of these two is, the prayashchita is continually chant the holy name, but one will have to suffer. So one will have to suffer for those offenses. At the same time, one will have to continually chant the holy names. That is the prayashchita. So one has to go through the suffering and at the same time continually chant the holy names. So as far as other offenses are concerned, one may not have to go through the suffering, but one will have to continually chant the holy names to rectify. All right? So some people make the following proposition. Those offenders of the name who are without karma and jnana and practicing bhakti with hearing and chanting, but have not taken initiation because they have not surrendered to the feet of a guru, are still called Vaishnavas. Now here comes a very important point. This subject matter is discussed many times even within our society. Many devotees ask this question. Here he gives a very beautiful answer. He gives a very beautiful answer. Even in the Bhakti Shastri class, some devotees were asking this question. Okay, so we'll just go to the next statement he makes. Thus Vaishnavas are those who make Vishnu the object of worship by accepting initiation, and also those who make Vishnu the object of worship simply by worship, since there is no other word to describe the two types of people. So the latter type of persons also should not fall to hell. So he's saying, who are Vaishnavas? One is Vaishnavas are those who worship Vishnu. And he says, second category he says is those who worship Vishnu and also accept initiation from Guru. Both fall under the category of Vaishnavas. And since both of them are Vaishnavas, both of them should not fall to hell. He says, this however is not correct because one cannot attain the Lord easily without Guru. Okay? One cannot attain the Lord easily without Guru. And then he's quoting this verse, we know this verse, Nirdeham Adyam Sulabham Sudulabham. So where Guru Karnadharam, right? You know this verse. Therefore, it should be explained that there is no other way of attaining the Lord than by becoming a devotee who has surrendered to the feet of a Guru, who will be attained in another birth by the power of worship. Okay, so he's saying that in this birth, if one does not get a Guru, he's only worshipping. Suppose he's only worshipping the Lord and he does not attain a Guru in this life for whatever reason, then because of his worship, at least in a future birth, he will attain Guru. Okay? But then he's raising a question, but it is seen that Ajamil, without surrendering to Guru, is the attained Lord? Did Ajamil accept Guru? At least there's no mention in the Bhagavatam, right? Is there any mention Ajamil accepted Guru? No, there's no mention. That's what he's saying. So on one hand, we're saying that Guru is essential, but Ajamil is an example. He did not accept Guru. How to answer this? Before? What before? No, before that is not counted only. Before that is, that's what he discussed, na? Before it was not even bhakti. He says it was simply karma kanda with bhakti as secondary. Okay, let's go ahead. Wait. This can be explained as follows. He himself is explaining, so we don't have to speculate. Those who, like cows or asses, make their senses pursue sense objects cannot know the Lord, bhakti or Guru even in their dreams. So if somebody is simply after sense objects, very difficult to know Lord, bhakti or Guru, even in their dreams, he says. But as in the case of Ajamil, they can be delivered even without Guru by chanting the name in Namabhas without offense. Please note this. So if somebody is chanting in Namabhas without offense, they can be delivered without Guru. Though it has been definitely ascertained that the Lord should be worshipped, that worship is the means of attaining Him, that Guru is the person who teaches about worship, and that those who are devotees attain the Lord, it is also said, no diksham, na cha satkriyam, na cha purascharyam manag ikshate, mantro ayam rasana sprig eva falati Shri Krishna namatmakam. Chanting the holy name does not depend on initiation. I'm sure you may have heard this quite a few times from even some authorized people. Chanting the holy name does not depend on initiation, pious activities, or the Purascharya regulative principles generally observed before initiation. The holy name does not wait for any of these activities. It is self-sufficient. This is from Padyavali. Padyavali who? Rupa Goswami. Very authoritative statement. This is the glory of the holy name. Holy name does not depend on any other process. It does not depend on initiation, Purascharya, anything. It does not depend on self-sufficient. It's totally... Hold on. It is self-sufficient. Very nice, right? No need to accept Guru. But now hear what he says. And this is a very beautiful answer. In fact, for the first time I'm reading something like this. And all those who make such statements, this is a good answer for them. Then he says, as well, we have the example of Ajamil. He did not have Guru. But one who thinks, please note this point, but one who thinks, what is the benefit of taking trouble to accept Guru? I will attain the Lord just by chanting the name. He will not attain the Lord because of the offense of offending Guru, third offense. Understood? So if somebody thinks, to to make it more practical, so somebody, he comes into ISKCON, he reads the scriptures, and we know Rupa Goswami, so same Rupa Goswami who has said this in Padyavali, the same Rupa Goswami is giving 64 angas of bhakti, and then after giving the 64 angas of bhakti, what does he say? Which is most important? The first three. And what are the first three? Accepting the shelter of bona fide Guru, taking initiation, and then serving him. This same Rupa Goswami is saying that amongst all the 64 angas, those three are most important. Correct? So after hearing all this, if now somebody takes shelter of this statement of Padyavali, after hearing about the 64 angas of bhakti, then one thinks, no, Rupa Goswami has said this in Padyavali, so I will not accept Guru. Then what it becomes? Third offense. So if somehow due to circumstances, unknowingly or whatever be the reason, if somebody does not accept Guru, like in the case of Ajamil, circumstantially he does not accept Guru. But at the same time, what is the type of chanting? Namabhas without offenses. So if somebody is able to chant without offenses, then if he does not accept Guru, he can still attain perfection. And this is exactly what Srila Prabhupada explains. If you go to the Chaitanya Charitamrita verse, you know there's that famous Chaitanya Charitamrita verse, I don't remember the exact reference, which talks about this Purascharya. You know that? Yes. So some of our personalities, they also give lectures on that verse to prove that there is no need of initiation. But if you read that purport carefully, if somebody can quickly open that purport, I can show it right now. You can search Purascharya in the Chaitanya. Open and give. You got it? नहीं, वो गड़बड़ हो जाएगा. Yeah, okay, I just want to read one or two statements here. So here this verse, who's speaking this verse, by the way? The Lord accept prasad in the house of Saram Bhattacharya. Context, yeah. Anyway, whatever. So here also, this is also some glorification of the holy name. Eka Krishna name kare sarva papakshaya navavidha bhakti purna nama hoite hoy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking, no? Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna once, a person is released from all reactions of sinful life. One can complete the 9 process of devotional service simply by chanting the holy name. So here also, Srila Prabhupada is explaining, as for being freed from all sinful reactions by chanting the holy name of Krishna only once, one must chant the holy name without committing any offenses. Then chanting one name is sufficient to rescue a living being from all sinful reactions. Such a person who chants the holy name of the Lord offenselessly is very important and worshipable. So the whole stress is on the offenseless chanting. Now coming to this verse, this is Madhya 15, 108. Okay, this is easy to remember, 108. So this verse says, Diksha Purascharya Vidhi Apeksha Na Kare Jivva Sparshe A Chandala Sabhare Udhare. One does not have to undergo initiation or execute the activities required for initiation. One simply has to vibrate the holy name with his lips. Thus, even a man in the lowest class, Chandala, can be delivered. So then, Prabhupada in the purport is quoting Jiva Goswami's definition of Diksha, Divya Jnanam Yato Dadyat. So then, So, Prabhupada is quoting from the Vishnu Yamala. Unless one is initiated by bona fide spiritual master, all his devotional activities are useless. So, even though the verse is saying that there's no need of initiation, now Prabhupada is quoting verses to show the importance of initiation. A person who is not properly initiated can descend again into animal species. And then he's quoting from Hari Bhakti Vilas, is the duty of every human being to surrender to a bona fide spiritual master. Giving him everything, body, mind, intelligence, one must take initiation from him. Quite interesting, huh? Prabhupada is giving all verses the importance of taking initiation. So then he's explaining Purascharya. So the word Puraha means before and Charya means activities. Due to the necessity of these activities, we do not immediately initiate disciples in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. For 6 months, a candidate for initiation must first attend Aarti and classes in the Shastras, practice the regulative principles, and associate with other devotees. When one is actually advanced in the Purascharya Vidhi, he is recommended by the local temple president for initiation. So this is Purascharya, so before initiation. It is not that anyone can be suddenly initiated without meeting the requirements. When one is further advanced by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra 16 rounds daily, following regulative principles and attending classes, he receives the sacred thread Brahmanical recognition after second 6 months. So then he is quoting from the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Without performing the Purascharya activities, one cannot become perfect even by chanting this mantra for hundreds of years. But one who has undergone the Purascharya Vidhi process can attain success very easily. If one wishes to perfect his initiation, he must first undergo the Purascharya activities. The Purascharya process is the life force by which one is successful in chanting the mantras. Without the life force, one cannot do anything. Similarly, without the life force of Purascharya Vidhi, no mantra can be perfected. So then, okay. Now further down the purport, Prabhupada is explaining. Now he's coming to the verse per se. Then he says, in other words, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is so powerful that it does not depend on official initiation. But if one is initiated and engages in Pancharatra Vidhi, deity worship, his Krishna consciousness will awaken very soon and his identification with the material world will be vanquished. The more one is freed from material identification, the more one can realize the spirit soul is quantitatively as good as supreme soul. At such a time, when one is situated on the absolute platform, one can understand that the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. At the stage of realization, the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna mantra, cannot be identified with any material sound. If one accepts the Hare Krishna mantra as a material vibration, he falls down. One should worship and chant the holy name of the Lord by accepting it as the Lord himself. One should therefore be properly initiated properly according to revealed scriptures under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. Although chanting the holy name is good for both the conditioned and liberated soul, it is especially beneficial to the conditioned soul because by chanting it, one is liberated. When a person who chants the holy name is liberated, he attains the ultimate perfection by returning home back to Godhead. So now, after this, Prabhupada is writing, now this is the essence of the whole discussion. The offenseless chanting of the holy name does not depend on initiation process. Clear? So what does not depend on initiation? Offenseless chanting. But how to come to the offenseless stage? Yes, to come to that offenseless stage, this whole drama is going on. What all we are doing, accepting the spiritual master, following the various rules and regulations, all of that is for what? To come to that offenseless stage of chanting. So if one has already come to the offenseless stage of chanting, then there is no need. Point is clear? Prabhupada has clarified everything very beautifully. There's no need of any further discussion. The offenseless chanting of the holy name does not depend on initiation process. although initiation may depend on Purascharya or Purascharana, the actual chanting of the holy name does not depend on Purascharya Vidhi or the regulative principles. If one chants the holy name even once without committing an offense, he attains all success. So yes, we read the glorification. Even once chanting the holy name can destroy as many sins as one cannot commit. That is the glory. But that one holy name is what? Offenseless holy. Then it is so powerful. If one chants the holy name even once without committing an offense, he attains all success. Clear? Okay. Thank you. So that's what he's explaining. So he's saying that if somebody hears this and he thinks, no need of initiation, very nice. No need of accepting Guru, no need of initiation, I'll simply chant the holy name. It will become what? Third offense. Then where is the question of progress? So therefore, even though Ajamil did not accept a Guru, but the point is he chanted offenselessly. So therefore, but if one thinks on the basis of what is said in the Shastra, if one thinks, what is the benefit of taking the trouble to accept Guru? I will not accept. Then it goes under Gurur Avagya. Then what chanting will work? If one commits Gurur Avagya, where is the question of progress? No question of progress. Are all these points clear? Because he is diminishing the importance of Guru. He is not accepted the Guru, but he is offending the very principle of Guru. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada in his lectures also explains, when you talk of Guru, it is not just one person, it is the Guru Tattva. So by saying there is no need of Guru, he is offending that Guru Tattva. That's how it's becoming an offense. Okay, so therefore, this should be the answer to those who say that there is no need of initiation. Are these points clear? So you can read that purport also. Madhya Leela, 15th chapter, 108. There also Prabhupada makes it very clear, and here Vishwanath Chakravarti also is making the point very clear. So it's not that anyone can say, no need of Guru, chanting of holy name is powerful. No, it doesn't work that way. So if one has already come to the offenseless stage, then it is fine. But if one has not come to the offenseless stage, then one has to follow the process that has been given by the acharyas, get purified. Gradually one will come to that offenseless stage. Okay? So therefore he says, however, in this life or another life, if he surrenders to the feet of Guru, after destroying his offense, he will then attain the Lord. So if he commits such an offense, then he has to destroy the offense, and then, but after that, maybe in this life or another life, he surrenders to feet of Guru, then he can attain perfection. So some say that persons who worship Devatas should be treated like karmis with sin and offense. Okay. So another important point, Namaprad yuktanam namani eva haranti agham avishranti prayuktani tani evartha karani cha. Even if in the beginning one chants the Hare Krishna mantra with offenses, one will become free from such offenses by chanting again and again. So the solution for rising above the aprad yuktanam is what? To continue to chant. Okay, fine. So, any clarifications on this discussion? Very important discussion. So, therefore, what's the crux of the whole discussion? What's the main obstacle in our progress? Offense. Especially he has emphasized two offenses, that is Vaishnava Prad and Namno Balad Yasya Papa Buddhi. And of course, even the interpretation of the name, so that is also considered offensive. But especially these two are great offenses. And so, if one commits these offenses, then Bhakti Devi is displeased. Then even though the holy name is very powerful, Bhakti Devi is very powerful, but she does not bestow the effects or the benefits of the chanting of the holy name. And then, in order to purify that devotee, Krishna also may give suffering. So Krishna also may implant material desires in the heart of such a devotee, as in the case of Saubhari Muni. And that's how then once again he commits sinful activities, and then once again the suffering will have to continue. So therefore, Mahaprabhu, in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, it's mentioned, when he came to Kulya, he very emphatically raised his hand and declared, you only have to do two things. What? Chant the holy names and do not commit offenses. I will personally take you back to the spiritual world. So practically this is what we are supposed to do. And therefore, our main focus should be to avoid offenses. So we commit offenses, then we face reactions, then we have to struggle to overcome those reactions, and then further offenses. So all this becomes very complicated. So therefore, we have to, as it said, prevention is better than cure. So therefore, the best thing is to try and prevent these offenses. So these actually, in the lives of many devotees, we see these two only are the main obstacles actually. So one commits sinful activities and one tends to justify them. That's one thing. So then that becomes the seventh offense. And then offenses to devotees. Because we live in the association of devotees, then there's a tendency to commit offenses towards devotees. So therefore, one should be extremely careful to avoid these offenses, then our progress in Krishna consciousness will become much more smoother.
Is chanting one holy name exactly what? Means Shuddha Naam, yeah. One holy name actually. How?
Of course, Vishwanath Thakur is saying 4 syllables, not 4 syllables also not required. 2 syllables, 1 syllable. So that is the power of the holy name. Therefore, even in that verse by Devoti, what she says? Yes, yad jivagre namatubhyam. There also you can read Prabhupada's purport, Acharya's commentaries. Jiva agre. That means one full name is also not required. There also same thing is explained. One full name is also not required. Tip of the tongue means what? 1 syllable only will come out. Full name also will not come out. That much is sufficient. But the condition is offenseless. That. How can you say that? What about all the offenses that have been done? So it's not like that. So we already have a contaminated consciousness. So it's not something mechanical. I just say, Ra. Oh, it is offenseless. No, that Ra is also contaminated. Because my consciousness is contaminated. My very consciousness is contaminated. So therefore, if it's not something mechanical like that. It's already contaminated. Yes. That is the meaning. So in the But at that point of time, he called out very helplessly. So at the time of, especially at the time of death, it was totally helpless. And before that also, he was calling out in affection. He was calling out in affection. So this, just to add to this discussion, now, and this is a commentary on the 20th verse. Okay, so that is the end of this discussion which the Vishnutudas are giving. But Jiva Goswami, he does not comment on this verse, but he comments on the 20th verse, but the subject matter is same, the glories of the holy name. And so he says, so he's asking a question. So before that, he's speaking about the glories of the holy name. Sins are destroyed by austerity, charity and vows, but the root of sin is not destroyed. However, bhakti to the Lord, even the root of sin, namely desire, is destroyed. So that's, now, if that is so, why did Ajamil not immediately go to Vaikuntha as an associate? Since while dying he chanted the name. Correct. So, while, so he's saying that if one chants the name, then even the desire to commit sin is destroyed. That means desire to commit sin, sinful reactions, everything is destroyed. So if everything is destroyed, then he should immediately go to Vaikuntha, na? But did Ajamil immediately go to Vaikuntha? No, he did not go. So he's asking the question, why? Why he did not go? So then he's quoting from 3:9-15. I surrender to the Lord without birth, whose name is invested with the powers of the Lord's qualities and activities, chanted at the point of death, even without attention, immediately destroy lifetimes of sins and allow men to achieve the uncovered true form of the Lord. But he says there are two types of chanting the name. He says, Kevala, without affection, and Sneha Samyukta, with affection. The first type, without affection, keeps the person from going to hell, and the second gives nearness to the Lord. So if one chants, but if there's no affection, at most he can be saved from hell. But he cannot achieve the Lord. Because to achieve the Lord, there must be some sneha, some affection, some love for the Lord must be there to achieve the Lord. And then he is quoting this verse from 10th canto. Rendering devotional service to me qualifies any living being for eternal life, but your prema for me, which has existed to bring the highest fortune, has caused you to attain me directly. So prema is required. To achieve the Lord, prema is required. But also it is said that the Lord delays in giving his affection. So he does not give that affection also so easily. And then he's quoting from the 10th canto again. But the reason I do not immediately reciprocate the affection of living beings, even when they worship me, O gopis, is that I want to intensify their loving devotion. They then become like a poor man who has gained some wealth and then lost it, and who thus becomes so anxious about it that he can think of nothing else. So the Lord also wants to increase that affection, and so therefore he does not give that affection so easily. And then he says, Amisham Anuvritti means affection or continual service, which is one's very life. Thus, even Ajamil had affection in chanting the name because it was also the name of his son. So, Ajamil had affection because he had affection for his son. And with that affection, he was chanting the Lord's name. And so, therefore, that affection was also there in the chanting. Okay. Fine. So, the Lord gives his affection to a person when that person chants with longing while uttering the Lord's name with affection and desires to take the devotee. The servants of Vishnu understood this and took him with them forcibly. Okay. So, there was affection also. Okay. That is how Ajamil was saved. We are dependent on grace. Any other clarifications? You have a mic, you want to say something?
There are 2-3 questions, but one question is just this. Now this third offense we came, but now some devotees argue that, okay, we need Guru, then why can't Ritvik system?
No, but then Srila Prabhupada himself wanted the parampara to continue. Srila Prabhupada never gave instruction that parampara should stop with him. There are so many references we can give, where Srila Prabhupada has said, my disciples will initiate and the grand disciples will initiate. There are so many references to that.
This is also another process can be used.
Which?
This Ritvik system.
No. Where is the authorization for that? Where is the authorization? Anything that we do has to be authorized by Guru Sadhu Shastra. So where is the authorization? What is the answer?
Shastra says Ritvik system, if a person there, he also appoints Ritvik priest, like performing yajna also. They are Ritviks. So in that way...
No, but every bona fide guru wants the parampara to continue. Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita is saying, Evam parampara praptam. So the parampara has to continue. How will the parampara continue? There is no argument on that. Anything else? Okay, but let me come back. Okay, go ahead. Okay, fine. You have the mic, you speak. We'll just conclude with these two questions.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, like you said that this Ajamil actually happened to chant the name of Narayana at the end of his life.
At the end of his life and during his life also so many times.
Yeah, so many times. Now we find in India, many of the parents, they keep their children like Ram, Krishna, many things like this.
Correct.
And they may engage in nonsense for breaking four regulative principles. They do not have the idealism of Dharma and they actually chant with affection. So do you think still by chanting their offenses, all the offenses are counteracted?
See, okay, they may chant the name of their son, they may chant with affection also. All that may be there. But then here in the case of Ajamil, the important point is that as he was chanting, there were no offenses committed. So do these other people, can we say that no offenses?
Yeah, so now suppose if they are chanting, at least now it is said that, as you said, 2 syllables also chanted, it counteracts all the offenses, maybe even...
No, not offenses, sins.
Sins, whatever.
No, not whatever. There's a big difference.
So will it counteract? Yeah, at least will it counteract the sins?
But that will also happen when no offenses are committed. When no offenses are committed.
And could be the similar situation of their Ajamil also they are put into, where they don't have any previous qualification, nothing but...
Now you are assuming things.
Yeah, even if we just take it as a point of...
It's very hypothetical. It's a very hypothetical situation. And if you put ifs and buts, then it's a very hypothetical
situation. So you can say it is
situation.
person to person.
Yes. Every person is individual. Every person is individual.
So what...
So see, as far as Ajamil is concerned, he chanted offenselessly and he got purified and ultimately attained perfection. So now, we cannot take this as an excuse and think that maybe something similar will happen to me also or for anyone else. So ultimately, who will decide? So just like here we read that ultimately in the case of Ajamil, Vishnu decided. Correct? In this commentary we read. Vishnu decided and Vishnu sent the Vishnu Dutas. Get him. So Vishnu is the topmost authority and he decided. Now, that means Vishnu knows the whole situation, right? He knows the whole situation, all the calculations of karma and sin and offense and all that. So Vishnu, he knows all those calculations and then finally he is giving the decision. Now, even if one may hypothetically say that, okay, it is possible for me also, for another person, but it's all risky business. We cannot take things for granted. So therefore, the acharyas are giving us lessons which we as sadhakas are supposed to learn. That is what the acharyas are teaching us. And that is what we are supposed to learn. So as far as we are concerned, the lesson for us is that we need to chant the holy names without offenses. That is the lesson we need to learn. Bolo.
One phrase came after this verse.
So we'll take break after this question, okay?
Before this verse, that yatha yathatma परिमर्ज्यते असो. इसके पहले पैराग्राफ में that phrase has come. According to the degree of bhakti, they attain destruction of offenses.
Correct.
And the solution is given after some time, that continual chanting. So that implies this.
Correct. So that is the bhakti. That is the bhakti.
Because the solution of the offenses again continual chanting, and here it is told.
Yes. So that is the increase in bhakti, is the chanting. And of course, then, see, when we take something from Shastra, we have to take the whole picture. So, again, if a Vaishnava aparadha is done, then the solution for that is not only chanting. Correct? So in other places, then in Madhurukadamni, other places, then the Shastra is explaining. Then one has to go to the Vaishnava, please him, beg for forgiveness, glorify him. So all that also has to be done. In fact, in Madhurukadamni, Vishnu Chakra clearly says that chanting the holy name in the case of Vaishnava Aparadha is the third step. The first two steps are pleasing the Vaishnava, begging for forgiveness, and the second step is repentance. Those two are compulsory. Then the chanting of the holy names as the third step will be effective. If one does not do the first two steps, and one thinks, who will, that's headache, na? Going to the Vaishnava, begging for, I'll only chant the holy name. It doesn't work. So everything has to be taken into consideration. But ultimately the point is, if the offenses have been committed, then whatever rectificatory process has been recommended in the Shastra has to be done to free oneself from the effects of the offenses. And that is how, as one becomes free, this is the principle. Principle is what? Bhakti Devi has to be pleased. This is the principle. So, if Bhakti Devi is not pleased, we may chant for millions of lifetimes also, nothing is going to happen. This is the point. So we have to see how Bhakti Devi will be pleased. And so, if as far as possible, try to avoid offenses. If offenses have taken place, then whatever rectificatory measures are required, one has to perform them. And that is how, then as we become free from the offenses and Bhakti Devi is pleased, then Bhakti Devi will give the effects of Bhakti, the holy name. And that is how one will make spiritual progress. So the important lesson to learn is, everything is not automatic. We have to make those efforts to please Bhakti Devi. Then by the grace of Bhakti Devi, we'll make progress. Otherwise, if we don't make those efforts, then Bhakti Devi's grace will not come, then we cannot make progress. Then, as we read, then we'll have to suffer. Then the suffering will be there. Because Krishna doesn't tolerate, Bhakti Devi does not tolerate, then sinful tendencies, sinful reactions, all this will come, then there will be suffering. So if we want to be free from suffering, if we want to experience spiritual happiness, then we have to make those conscious efforts to please Bhakti Devi. And therefore then the whole process is included, which the whole process of bhakti as given by the acharyas is for that purpose, to please Bhakti Devi. So therefore we are studying all this so that we properly understand the process, follow the process, please the bona fide spiritual master. That's how we make progress. Take care. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So, 1 hour break, right? So can we start at 2:30? It's about 2:35. That's a little fast. We can start 2:30, right? So 2:30 to 4, another 1.5. The main part of the chapter is almost over. The rest is, we can go quite fast with the rest. But we also have to compensate for one day, isn't it? We missed one day, na? Monday we missed. Huh? So can we go from 2:30 to 4:30? Yes. 2:30 to 4:30. Hare Krishna. Then I think so we'll complete this chapter. Then next chapter is a little smaller. Hare Krishna.